Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to our best chess games of all time series. So in this series we're following the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history, and today I wanted to show you really one of the most tactical chess games that have been played in chess history. It was the game between Mikhail Tal against Alexnader Koblenz back in 1957 in Riga. So this game is it's really a dangerous game. For those who have a weak heart, don't watch this game because it has so many tactical possibilities, and even my Stockfish engine has some troubles to analyze these games. It jumps really, the evaluations are jumping plus minus 4 black 4 white. I'm not even sure what are the best lines here. This was a great tactical preparation by Mikhail Tal. He played basically one strategical element and it was opening the H file with some nasty tactical threats. He cornered his queen on H8. Many great ideas were played in this game. Be prepared, this is really something else. So let's see the game. I'm not going to talk so much about the history about this game. This is really some tactics and just tactics. So we have here E4 by Tal, Koblents, C5, knight to F3. I'm just gonna skip a little bit faster this opening theory because this is something else. This is not about opening theory. This is about tactical knowledge and also about chess intuition. So here D4 played by Tal. We have C takes D4, knight takes D4, knight to F6, attacking the E4, knight to C3, knight to C6. So far the 4 knights variation of the Sicilian, and now bishop to G5, the Richter-Rauser attack. So E6. The idea behind this move is this flexibility in the center. If the position allows it, we can try D5 or E5, kicking away the knight. So this is a good setup of blacks. If you want to play the Sicilian, I recommend you also to play these types of variations with potential A6, B5 flank attacks on the queen side. So in the game, queen to D2, preparing queenside castling by Tal, and now bishop to E7. Queenside castling, castling on the king side, and now we have really this opposite side attack game, which I always like. We have kings on opposite side to it, so it means white will coordinate the attack on the king side. On the other hand, black could counterplay on the queen side with potential A6, B5 moves, and also a good idea for black is to counterplay with the move D5 in the center. So if the position allows it, the good idea is to bring maybe the rook on the D file and try to crack the position on the D file with the move D5. So in the game, knight to B3 played by Tal, releasing the pressure a little bit in the center. We want to play more freely with our queen, with our rook, so that's why there was this tension in the center around the square D4, and Tal decides to release the pressure a little bit. The knight to, queen to B6, we have F3, preparing G4, and now A6. G4, here rook to D8. As I said, the idea is to finally push the pawn on D5 to crack the position in the center, because one of the main strategical elements in chess is when your opponent creates a flank attack is to counterplay with a central pawn breakthrough, with a central counter attack. So that's why it was a good idea here by Koblents. And in the game, Tal played bishop to E3, attacking the queen to C7, and now finally H4. We have B5. Maybe now finally D5 is a better move here for black. D5 leads, I think, into a simplified line, which is good for black. I think you have to play something like queen to G2 and simply take out D takes E5, E4. Here we can take rook takes D8, maybe queen takes D8, but now F takes E4. The position becomes symmetrical. That's the main idea of blacks here with the move D5. It's not so complicated, it's not so unbalanced. It's not such an unbalanced position. It's more easier to calculate now all of the possible tactics. So I think Koblenz should have gone in this particular line, but in the game he tried really to play aggressive against the magician from Riga with the move B5, counter-attacking also on the queen side. And in the game, G5 played by Tal, which was a tricky move because knight to H5 doesn't work. This is the problem, because you get simply queen to F2, preparing this attack on the B6 square. So you have to play something like rook to B8, but now bishop to e2, preparing f4 moves. If you, for instance, counterplay with the move e5, then you leave your d5 square very weak, so that's why you would be forced to play something like g6, but now f4, attacking the knight. If you try knight to g7, then h4, simply trying to open the position on the h file. If the queen gets here on h2 or h4, simply creating dangerous attacks on the h file. So this is not good, so that's why Koblenz decides to retreat with his knight on d7, not on h5. And the good move, the good idea behind this move is that you're covering finally this b6 square. This queen to f2 idea is not so dangerous anymore. So in the game, g6 played by Mikhail Tal. So this is now the difference between Tal and the many great players in chess history. He wants really this tactics. This is not the best move. If you put this move in an engine, it shows you that it was a mistake by Tal. But it's really a Tal move. He creates attacks. He wants to attack. He wants to be on the attacking side. He wants to open positions, open files, open diagonals, just in order to make something happen. And g6 perfectly fine, because you see, Black has also made some progress on the queen side. He has some attacking possibilities with the move b4, and that's why Tal wanted to be faster simply and play the move very aggressive. This move g6, after h takes g6, we have h5, cracking the position. You see g5 doesn't work because we have a double attack here on this diagonal. So g takes h5 was played, rook takes h5, and now knight to f6, kicking away the rook, rook to h1, and now we have d5 finally by Koblenz. It's not too late, this move d5, but I like this move a couple of moves before. So d5 is okay also now, cracking the position, but now here e5 played by Mikhail Tal, sacrificing another pawn just for the initiative. He's not allowing his opponent to simplify the position now. After knight takes e5, queen takes e5 doesn't work. If you take with the queen, then your queen is trapped here with this move, bishop to f4, then bishop to d3. The queen would be really endangered, so this wouldn't be a good idea for Black to play the move queen to e5. That's why knight takes e5. We have now bishop to f4, and this was now maybe the first inaccuracy in the attack by Tal, because he was a great attacker. He found really the best moves. A better idea, I think, is to play the move queen to h2 immediately without this move bishop to f4. Now the king has to go on f8. If you create this check, then after knight to g8, we have a very tricky move, bishop to d4. The idea behind this move is to play f4, kick away the knight here somewhere. The knight has to retreat and then attack here this g7 weakness. So Black would be forced then to play the move bishop to f6 to cover everything, but now bishop to c5 is the main threat. After bishop to e7, finally we can get our rook on a very active square on h7, and this g7 is unprotected, and I think it will be game over here for Black. So, but in the game, Tal played the move bishop to f4, attacking the knight, pinning the knight, and Koblenz responded with the move bishop to d6, queen to h2, finally attacking this knight 2 times, and also creating again this very dangerous threats on the h file. So that's why Koblenz played the move king to f8, and now queen to h8. And this is now the critical moment of the game. Here Koblenz has, I think, a better position. He should have gone with this king simply on e7, because I'm not seeing a clear way how how White should make progress here. If you, for instance, play something like queen to h4 in order to pin this knight further, then Black has really a good move which solves, I think, all of the positional problems in the game. Here we have the move knight to d3. After bishop takes to d3, we have bishop takes f4. You have to get out with your king somewhere, and this is simply playable with the bishop pair with 2 pawns up, although your king is endangered. But after bishop to b7, I think we can even go rook to h8, simply competing with this queen on the h file, and simply get our king back in security. So as said, this would be a good line, I think, for white. But in the game, instead of this move, king to e7, Koblenz decides to go knight to g8, and this is not good because the knight will be pinned there all the time. That's the problem. And here the queen of Mikhail Tal. The funny thing about this queen on h8 is that the queen will stare for the rest of the game, so the queen will be cornered there. And Tal, of course, simply continued to push. Rook to h7, attacking here this g7 weakness. The g7 weakness is the main attacking spot that Mikhail Tal will try to attack. In the game f5, finally protecting here the g7, including the queen also into the defense, and Tal simply played bishop to h6. You cannot take, of course, the bishop. Your queen is hanging, and you cannot take it also with your knight because you're pinned by the queen. So that's why in the game rook to d7 was played. And this is really, now the next move is really again a Tal move, which I think only few players can see. It's a great attacking move. You can pause the video and try to find the move that Tal has played. Take your time. It's not so easy to see, but it's really an aggressive move, which allows now Tal to create some nasty attacks against black. Here he played bishop takes b5, and you see the problems about this move. It seems that black can play the move knight to g6 and attack the queen. The queen doesn't have any squares. The queen is cornered there. But let's see this possible move, knight to g6. Then you have simply the possibility knight to d4, attacking here the e7, e6 weakness. The idea is, of course, to create this fork. So if you take, for instance, the queen, then we have knight takes e6, king to f7, knight takes c7, attacking the rook. You have to take out the rook, but now rook to g7. You have to go somewhere with your king, and now maybe rook to c7. If you take the bishop, then bishop to c6, I think is a winning move here for white, because if you take the rook, we can simply take out also this rook. But now in the next move we'll take out the pawn on the d5, so white would have the rook and 3 pawns for 2 minor pieces. So from an endgame's perspective, this is simply winning. So after the move bishop to b5, you have maybe a choice to play, I don't know, maybe rook to f7, like Koblenz did, or you could play maybe rook to a7, also trying to cover the this 7th rank. But the bad idea is to take out the bishop. This is the problem. That's what Tal was probably calculating. Then you have simply rook to g1, not to take even immediately this pawn on b5. So you see knight on g6 doesn't work. This a takes b5 idea doesn't work also. You have to do something. You have to play something like rook to a7 in order to cover finally this 7th rank. But now knight to b5, fork on the queen and the rook. You could simply escape with the queen somewhere, but in the next move we can simply take out the rook, and then after that here this g7 weakens. So great attack here by Mikhail Tal. After the move bishop to b5, Koblenz decided to go rook to f7, escaping with the rook, but staying on the 7th rank, which is the most important thing. And in the game, Tal continued to push with his main idea to create these dangerous attacks on g7, rook to g1, and now rook to a7. If you try a takes b5 now, then you get simply bishop to g7. After rook takes g7, you see rook to g7, and again it's game over. You cannot take with the queen, so that's why this move rook to a7 is a must move. So still you cannot take out the bishop on b5, and here Tal played knight to d4. Again, a takes b5 is not so good. Again, I think it's not so dangerous. The knight to g6 doesn't work anymore because the rook is covering that square. So Tal used this couple of tempos with staying with this bishop on b5, and finally included all of his pieces in the attack. This is really an attacking harmony of white's pieces. In the game, knight to g4 was played, so Koblenz decides to simply cut off this annoying g file. In the game, f takes g4 was played, and now bishop to e5. If you try here g takes h6, it seems that it's possible now, but again it's really a sick and pervert line that Tal has prepared here. He can play simply g takes f5, opening the g file, and you would be forced maybe to play here this check, bishop to f4, king to b1, and maybe to close here the g file. This would be the idea. But now there is really, I analyzed this position, it's really a sick move. I'm not sure how many of us would see this move in this particular way, so I really hope that Tal saw all of that, because this game is so tactical, because now we have the possibility to play a really tricky move, bishop to d7, sacrificing the bishop, and whatever takes this bishop on d7, it's basically game over. Let's see the possible continuation after rook takes d7. Then we have simply knight to e6, the fork, as I said, on the queen and the king. So if you take with the queen, then we have simply f takes e6. If you, for instance, take the rook takes h7, then we can simply take out the queen, and if you take the queen on h8, we can simply get another queen. We are promoting here on c8, and again it's game over. So that's why here, if you take with the bishop on d7, then again we have this move, f takes e6. If you, for instance, take out the rook, then rook to f1. So you're deflecting the rook from the defense on the king on the f file, and again you have only 2 squares, but in the next move we can take out the knight or the rook, and again it would be game over. In the next move we would take also here this bishop on d7, so again it's game over. So that's why after this move, f takes g4, you see g takes h6 is not a possibility. You saw now the possible tactical threats here by Mikhail Tal. In the game, bishop to e5 was played, finally covering this g7, and now we have knight to c6 attacking the rook and also the bishop. And in the game, Koblenz decides to go bishop to c3. Maybe a better line for Koblenz would have been to finally take this pawn, a takes b5, because if you, for instance, take knight takes e5, we have queen takes e5. You have to take out here this knight. Then I think after g takes f5 and maybe e takes f5, black has solved the problems, at least for a while. The material is about equal. White is 1 pawn down. Still, the king, black's king, would be endangered, but I think Koblenz should have gone into this line a takes b5 to simply release the pressure. It's too dynamic here for him around the king. So in the game he played the move bishop to c3, and here Tal played bishop to e3, attacking the rook. That's why Koblenz decided to close here the dark square diagonal with the move of d4, and now rook to h1. Now the idea is to play rook to h6, because you still cannot take out this rook, and after rook to d7 we have bishop to g5. And this was, I think, again, a slight inaccuracy here in Mikhail Tal's attack, because it allowed now a takes b5 here for Koblenz. Rook to h6 was played by Mikhail Tal. Here I didn't explain you, I'm sorry. Here in this last move you have to go somewhere with the rook first, because the tactical threat was to take out the knight. Queen takes g8 and then followed with rook to h8, checkmate. So that's why here Koblenz had to remove the rook, as creating sort of a breathing space here on f7, and in the game, as I said, bishop to g5, a slight inaccuracy by Mikhail Tal. So here a takes b5 was played, but now Mikhail Tal played rook to h6. The idea behind this move is to play here bishop to h6 or rook to h6 in order to again open somehow the position around the black king, and also this tactical threat to take out here the pawn on g7 is possible. And in the game, d3 played by Koblenz. This wasn't the best of moves. He should have gone, instead of this move d3, he should have gone simply take out this knight on c6, because Tal has prepared here a great tactical line, but I think black can escape with the move here. Rook to h6 is the possibility. Here, if you take g takes h6, then we have bishop to h6. You cannot take with the knight, of course, and you have to cover with your rook. But now rook, bishop takes g7 is the possibility. King to e7. Now, of course, you can take bishop to f6. It's not a problem. But now after king to d6, bishop to e5. Here black can hide on the square d5. Koblenz probably didn't see this particular line. And here, if you take out the rook, you have to take out the rook. There is this tactical line. We can try bishop to b2, and I think black can go for a draw. King to b1 would be the possibility. If you take the bishop, for instance, here, then I think here black has this perpetual check possibilities with queen to c3, queen to b1, king to b1, queen to e1, and again creating a draw. So you see, Koblenz didn't take the knight. He was probably scared by this attack of Mikhail Tal. He played the move d3, and this was the mistake because it allows now Tal to take out the bishop. Here d2 was played by Koblenz, and now king to d1. The problem is you cannot create further checks. Queen to c6 was played, but it's a little bit too late, because now this rook to f6 idea is different. There is no bishop anymore on this particular diagonal. It's a huge difference. Here rook to f7 was played. Again, taking g takes f6 is now not a possibility, because you can simply bishop to h6. This was Tal's main tactical idea. If you cover with the rook, then here bishop takes g7. Again, if you try to escape, we have bishop takes f6, the same idea like in the previous example. And now after king to d6, the problem is we have this check here. Here king to c5 would be a possible continuation, but now bishop to d4, again another check. Here if you try, then the queen comes very active into the game. King to c4 has to be played, and now I think we can even simply take out the rook. In the next move we can also take out this pawn. The king is endangered here, so it's a huge difference without the bishop on the board. That's why this rook to f7 had to be played by Koblenz. But now Tal finds a very nice move. Queen takes g7, and in this position Koblenz resigned, because there's nothing you can do here. You can maybe escape with your king, but now we can simply take out the knight. Then after that, here this rook, and with the support of the bishop, black would be probably even get checkmated. So great tactical battle. I've showed you now some many lines that were possible in this game. I didn't show you, I think, all of the lines. Check out this game even further. I think there are many great lines that both of these players could have played here in this particular game. It was really a great tactical battle, and it was maybe one of the best chess games that Mikhail Tal has played, with such a great intuition, with such great attacking formations, with such great creativity, and that's why we love his games. He was really the magician, and deserves to be on our chess list of the best chess games of all times. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. I enjoyed it a lot. I've watched it now many times. The first time that I wanted to watch this game was with Antonio, my brother-in-law. He has also this great YouTube chess channel. You know all about him, this Agadmator's chess channel. I remember we watched the game the first time. He had this chess program, Chess Master 3000, I think it was. And we watched this game, and we were laughing our asses off how funny this game was, with cornering the queen on h8 with this great tactical threats that Tal has prepared here. That's why I decided to show you this game, and I hope you enjoyed it too, like I did. Okay, meanwhile you can watch my other YouTube chess channel content with some more best chess games of all times, and you can also watch my best chess games played by computers with some Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, Stockfish games, and many more. And you can also subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.